Hey everybody, welcome to Fortcast. Here at the Fort Church, we believe that where Jesus is, there is life. Jesus said, I come to give you life and to the full. And so here on Fortcast, it's our goal to bring you stories of restoration and encouragement that will help you in your journey with Christ. So I'm Matt, and this is
Kayla.
And we're excited today. We've got a very special guest with us. We're going to bring her in right now. This is Ginger. Hey, Ginger.
Hey, everybody.
All right, now Ginger, everybody knows us, but everybody might not know you yet. I know you got a lot of friends and family in the church, but tell everybody who you are and a little bit about you and your family.
I am Ginger Thomas. We started coming to the fort about a year ago. I have an older brother, a younger sister. I'm a middle child.
Where are you from?
I'm from Columbus.
Okay.
Lived here all my life.
Yeah. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Hardaway. Hardaway High.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And I have wonderful parents. I have to give a shout out to my parents. I have amazing parents. They're wonderful.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
Come on, you're going to tell us about your family.
Yeah. That was that's about it.
So, yeah, did you talk about your son?
No, that's what I was going to say. I was saving the best for last. I have a 15-year-old son named Jackson. He comes to the church a lot, and I have the love of my life, Jeff, who's also really involved with the church.
Yeah.
And
Jeff's a good guy. Always big smile on Jeff.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
big guy.
Big guy.
Yeah, for sure. So, thanks for coming in. I wanted to talk to you about all kinds of stuff, just about your life and what you're doing now. But I thought it'd probably be good to, and maybe helpful for a lot of folks to hear some of your story. A lot of it, I don't know yet. I mean, I know you from the last year,
Right.
and getting to see some of the amazing stuff, God's done in your life since then. But really haven't known you in your past life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's a good thing, Matt.
And so maybe just kind of, tell us a little bit of your story. I mean, all right, you grew up here, you went to Hardaway High. I mean, you want to take it from there earlier
We'll take it from there, because right about after that time is when I, stepped off the beaten path, I would say. Like I said, I came from a really, really good family. So I knew better, but I made poor choices on my own. I am an addict in recovery. This month on January 30th, it'll be 2 years clean and sober for me. Yeah. Woo-hoo. And but I guess when I was around 19 or 20, I started, my drug of choice was actually meth. That kind of surprises a lot of people. I don't know why, because addiction doesn't discriminate. It's any and everybody. But I battled that off and on for about 20 years, and just really took me down places I never thought I would go. I was homeless, sleeping on floors, committing crimes, just doing things that I never ever thought that I would do. That drug is the devil, and it took me some really, really scary places.
So 20 years, you said off and on. I mean, did you have moments where you were able to stop, or did you go through recovery programs in the past? Or?
I did. I went through, I guess when I was around 20, I went through it's called the Turning Point. It's not even here anymore. My parents found out that I was smoking marijuana, and they, of course, jumped, and I had tried cocaine a couple of times, and they got wind of that and put me right in there. I think it was like a 3-week treatment program. I wasn't ready, obviously. And then that continued on, and then I think I would have like the longest period before getting pregnant with Jackson was like 2 or 3 years. I didn't do anything, and then of course before I got pregnant, I was wanting to have Jackson, and I was clean and sober, and then I didn't use until he was, I think, 6. Okay. So it was about 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was, I mean, to kind of picture of your life? I mean, were you working during that time, or I mean, what?
I've never really, that's a thing that's all new for me now in recovery. I've never really been able to keep a job. Yeah. I always just wanted somebody else to take care of me. I always say now I'm 45 and it's like my life has just started, because then it was like I was just non-functional. I depended on other people. I expected everybody to take care of me. when my son was born, because I was clean, I was doing so good. I mean, I was like soccer mom, just like my mom was. I wanted to be like her. And she, and then I just smoked marijuana that one time. And you would think that would, I know people that can just smoke a little marijuana and that's it. But that just ignited the beast, and that was it. Like I said, I think he was 6, smoked marijuana, and then it was off on the meth again for a long time.
Wow. And now, does that come from your circle of friends at the time? I mean,
yes, definitely. His dad and I went through drugs. Really, or what took us out. We were together for almost 20 years, and it just got really ugly. My son, I ended up letting my son Jackson go stay with my parents, which is the best thing I could have done. And they, praise God, raised him for about 6 years. I was in
He's
his
a sharp
life.
kid.
He is.
He's
is.
really
He
sharp.
is. Yeah.
I'm always impressed by him.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Sorry, interrupt.
No, that's okay. But they raised him, and I was able to go, stay with them and off and on. But then they just had to kind of draw the line, and you can't just keep coming back and forth like this. It was just too hurtful for him.
Yeah.
So
I think for some people, it's probably easy to imagine, but I think for a lot of folks, it might be tough. Folks who are maybe they wouldn't even describe it as party a little bit, but who have a drink or hang out with friends or whatever. But for you, that kind of the idea of that kind of life, but it just devolved very quickly. I mean, it was never enough. Is that what you're saying?
It did. I mean, through my 20s, I was able to somewhat maintain. I was in a circle of friends that were like, not necessarily like the drug crowd like it was towards the end for me, but no, we would party. We were like weekend warriors, as you would say. I was able to maintain that. We would drink a lot. We'd, do coke or, little meth here or there. Sounds crazy, but, and then it was somewhat able to maintain. I had server jobs. I would work for a little while, and then it would interfere with my party, and then I would have to, I can't work here anymore. So that kind of went on for a long time, and just towards probably the last 10, I'd say about 8 years, is when it got really, really bad, where it was just non-functional, and it was because of all the guilt and shame I had, especially after using after having my son and then picking up again to start using, just undescribable guilt and that kept me sick and suffering. I would just keep using to try to numb out. I did horrible things to the best family. Like I've bragged on my parents, how wonderful they are, good Christian people, and I stole from them. I've been in jail 3 different times. 2 of those times, it was my parents that it was from crimes against them.
Really?
Yeah, and I thank God all the time, and I tell them I can't imagine how hard that was to do tough love. Because I have my son now, and I still struggle with not trying to parent out of guilt and things like that. Yeah. But for them to really, really love me enough to put their foot down, and they did not enable me. If they had enabled me, I wouldn't be here today. There's so many times
How are y'all doing now?
We're doing great.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It took about a year of just working so hard in my recovery, and instead of giving a lot of lip service, they just saw the changes in my life and just doing the next right thing, and that's what's so wonderful about recovery, because our loved ones recover through our recovery, just, without the broken promises and stuff. I just constantly have in my head, do the next right thing. And then I've gotten the keys back to my parents' house. It's just amazing. We talk multiple times, my mom and I are like best friends. And, my dad, it was hard. My dad was, I think it's different with moms. They're just tenderhearted, and mom, that mother's love. My dad was, pretty heartbroken, obviously. I said I wasn't gonna cry. Sorry, but I hurt him a lot. Yeah. So that took a little longer. Sorry, that took a little longer, but it's honestly, I think it's better than it's ever been with my dad and I, and that's just nothing but a God thing, that my parents, neither one of them ever gave up on me, but I think my dad had to pull back just kind of from self-preservation. And I understand that now as a parent. Yeah. And now that I'm, sober, I can totally see why they did the things they did, and everything makes sense. And just being able to see God's hand play out in every situation that I was in just takes my breath away. It's so he was so ever present in all of those. Me sleeping on floors, kicking in doors and houses. I mean, people are like, "What? I can't imagine you doing those things." But that's where dope took me. That's where the drug life took me, and just that bad.
It's called recovery, but I think a lot of people just don't really think about that word much. They just think, well, it's not using, right?
Right.
I mean, it's about recovering your life, right? It's
Absolutely.
about recovering who you are intended to be, who you were, or maybe who you want to be, and
Being better.
yeah, absolutely. And so I love that picture of and you get to see it visibly played out in people's lives of them. God giving them back, them recovering the things that were lost.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing, and as we watch it play out, and as you have your son, and and so all those things are just amazing. Maybe you could say something, and we'll get into this more. But now, I mean, you're really in a position to really help other addicts.
Oh yeah.
And get to spend most of your time doing that, right?
That's right.
And so. Yeah, I think that is probably an encouragement that a lot of folks who are in the midst of it really need to hear, that it's not just about not using it. It's about getting your life back.
Absolutely. And I actually I went through the DRC program because I was on probation for one of those the last time I went to jail. And I went through it's called Daily Reporting Center. I failed a drug test for probation, and they were like, "You're either going in this, or you're going to jail. Sign me up. I'll be there in the morning." So I did that, and it was like a 9-month program. I went 5 days a week, and I had a curfew and meetings and all that thing. And this was the beginning of the breakthrough with my parents, because I was living at the time when I got sentenced to that, I was living still in a drug house that was that's all we did was just do drugs. Yeah. And so I basically just packed my little bag, called my mom, and was like, "I need a ride." So she comes to get me, and the ride was to her house. And at the time, my dad and I really weren't even speaking, rightly so. I just kept saying, I cried to her. I was like, I won't make it. I'm not going to make it. I'll end up going back to jail. Please let me stay. And they just saw that I completely changed and started following the program, doing exactly whatever it was that they wanted me to do, and was respectful of the house. And from there, after about 2 weeks, my mom comes and she was like, "Well, I think your dad's going to let you stay." So, thank goodness, So that was the start of a big turning point. And that was in 2017, I believe. And I was clean for a year, like you were discussing about recovery. There's totally a difference between, and I know that now, from being abstinent and being, clean. I was just abstaining from drugs. I was just hanging on, white knuckling. I looked better. I felt a little better. But I didn't have that restoration, even though I was somewhat working on me. About midway through that year, I would resort to not doing the next right thing. Like, I'd find $5 and it could be in this room right here, and I wouldn't even ask y'all, is that, "Hey, did you drop something?" Just little bitty things. I might tell a lie to my mom, I was here, but I wasn't there, and all those things for an addict lead back to dope. They're always, when you fall in behaviors, that always leads back to dope. So that's what happened. But that relapse actually saved my life. That's what ran me into recovery, because I went back out and got all the pain that I ever need again. I mentally almost didn't come back from that relapse. It was just horrible.
Yeah. You said something made me think about it. So I've thought a lot about with addicts. Do y'all talk about the lying thing? Like, I know that you're in situations where you need to lie to try and preserve your addiction, to get what you want, that kind of thing. But like I see in addicts that they get so, my only explanation is they're just so accustomed to lying. They seem to lie when they don't need to lie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like there's no truth coming out of your mouth.
No, yeah.
Do y'all talk about that at all? I mean,
we do. We actually, it can be. You have to kind of laugh about it to keep from crying. And what I love about recovery, and I'm in 12-step, very involved in 12-step program, the NA program, and we're all exactly the same in there. So like when a newcomer may come in and they'll be, talk about that, it's just almost like a giggle effect, because that's how I was. Like, literally, my parents would say, "Your lips are moving, you're lying." Like, but you're an addict long before you pick up the dope. The problem's always been me. Not feeling like I was good enough, low self-esteem, always, kind of wanting to fit in and never really finding my niche. I have ADHD, and I've battled depression all my life. So I was on medication, and this was back years ago when they didn't know what ADHD was. So I had to go, to Atlanta and get tested. It wasn't like every kid that's squirming in the seat, give them a pill,
Right.
It was truly a issue, and it's still an issue for me today. But so I just had, they would send me out of the classroom. So at a young age, I just didn't feel good enough. And that is when I learned that I could be really funny. If I make fun of myself and be really loud and make everybody laugh, then, you're not going to get at me. So that took me far, but it also took me down, the bad road too. So,
Talking about people coming in and they start to share their story, and you go, "Oh yeah, or them hearing your story and going, "Wow, that sounds just like what I'm."
Right.
That happens all the time in church. People go, "Well, it's like you're speaking to me,
I know,
Pastor. You're like
Right.
you're talking exactly." I was like, "No, people just aren't that different." I mean,
Right.
the insecurities, the things that we deal
Right.
with, the struggles with sin, they're all very similar. The way that they manifest themselves will be different, depending on our circumstances. But
right.
the heart of it is, the brokenness of sin. So, all right, so you 20, something years in and out of addiction. You got 2 years, almost 2 years now, clean. So, and with a different mindset than you've ever had before.
Ever.
Yeah, in a position where you're helping other folks. So the question is though, so what's different now? Like what was it? What happened?
God. Like I said, I was raised in a good Christian family, so I knew all about God, and I've always, had somewhat of a relationship with Him, but I didn't let Him lead me and be the Lord of my life. I just kind of went through the motions, and during the last, like I said, maybe 3 years of using, or during that relapse, that 2 years, it was like He was really strongly present in my life, like really, really talking to me. And I innately knew that He had more for me. Like I just kept thinking, not that I was better than anybody, but this is not like, what are you doing? This is not like felt like I had a calling on my life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That something was just, He had big plans for me. And I just kept feeling that, of course, running away from it, and feeling so guilty that I wasn't, worthy, and that I would always hear, that Him saying to my heart that you're forgiven. You know what I mean? You're forgiven, and I just couldn't understand why He still loved me. And I've always had a strong faith, but I just didn't feel like I was worthy enough, and I've done too much that you can't be forgiven. I've done terrible things. There's no way you can forgive me. And then I would just keep beating myself up with the guilt. And I've learned, I think what changed too for me is that who am I to continue to guilt myself? When I ask Him for forgiveness, I lay that at His feet. It's forgiven.
Yeah.
And He wants me to be happy and live my life and help other people. That's been the calling on my life, and that was the big change for me, is just really letting Him let Him lead me, and just with the help of Him, forgiving myself.
Yeah.
So that's when everything changed. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, Kelly, you jump in if you got any questions. I'm
Just listening.
So having that understanding, coming to that understanding, which is something God does for us, but that we truly are new in Him, that we really do have a purpose and a new calling in Him that doesn't have anything to do with our abilities or our intelligence or our willingness. Even it's just He comes in, He changes our heart,
Right.
and He makes us aware that He has loved us in such a way that is beyond what we could love ourselves, even and just
Way beyond.
and really coming to that understanding that He loves us that much, even though our sin was really that bad. Doesn't minimize it
Right.
at all. Really understanding what the cross does for us, it's just so life transforming, and
It is.
and puts you into places that you thought you'd never be. Right?
Yes.
And so before I get to that, you and Jeff were together before, right?
We've
So
been
y'all
together.
are walking this recovery journey together.
Oh yes, and that's really we feel really, really extra blessed because of that. We use together. He has his own, he's a little older than me, so a little longer than 20-year addiction with same drug, meth, and really anything else, but mainly that. But he so we were together. We've been together almost 7 years now. So when I met him, we were used all that time. He was right with me when bouncing around from house to house and, all the way. And it took us some horrible places, with especially that drug. There's a lot of infidelity and things like that. So that was very hurtful to me, and it's only through God that I'm able just to forgive and know that wasn't who he was. He's a completely different person. That wasn't who I was. And we leave that in the past. We don't even revisit that because it's just that was a lifetime away. But he had an old warrant that he got picked up on, which was actually a godsend. And we've been talking about it probably the last year. I would literally cry while we were getting high. That's how much I hated it. But we just couldn't get off that wheel. And we would always talk about, we're going to get clean one day. We're going to do this, and we want this and that. So anyway, he got picked up and I was like, this is it. He got the DRC program. He had to spend 2 months in jail. And I said, this is our blessing. You're in there. You can clean out, dry out. I'm out here. I'm staying with a good girlfriend, who was not on drugs. That was a huge blessing. Her mom let me stay there with them, and I kicked it then. I just cut everybody loose, and we were just real supportive while he was in there. But that's what we needed, and that was on January 30th, the last time 2 years ago.
Y'all are gonna get your 2-year chips together.
Yes. Oh yeah, we have the exact same clean date, so it's pretty special. But you don't hear about that. Usually, people that use together.
Right.
If they can't even get clean together, then they look at each other and like, I don't even know who you are. Like, I don't. We don't have any similarities or anything, and it's just God has just blessed this relationship. I mean, it's the most healthy relationship I've ever been in. Yeah, it's really great.
That's good. Awesome. Yeah. Well, talk to us about what you're doing now.
Love what I'm doing. The biggest blessing in my life is being able to work in the recovery field. I have a girlfriend that was a case manager working at Grace House for Safe House Ministries, and she called me one day and was like, they're looking, they're talking about hiring another case manager. And I love Chaplain Neil Richardson, who is, Safe House Ministry and the chaplain in the county jails. So we already knew each other and we're friends on Facebook. So he saw the changes in my life. The last time I was in jail, my parents called him and said, can you pull her out and talk to her because she's really hysterical. And so we talked. And when I first met him in jail, he came out and he pulled me out, and I'm, looking down. I'm not listening to him. I'm just done. I'm so mad at my parents. It's their fault. Everything, all of that. And then he started talking to me, and then he said something about being an addict himself, and I went, what? Oh, so he might have, let me listen to you a little bit. But now fast forward, so we knew each other, and he knew my story and could see the changes in my life. And she said, well, I've just called my boss and gave your name, and I guess my boss, Kathy, spoke to Chap, and he said, I want her. Let's get her, So I just went and had lunch with her, and boom. So I've been working at Grace House through Safe House Ministries as a case manager, totally giving back. This is what God, I'm right where he wanted me to be. This is the calling I was speaking of that I know he put on my heart. I love it. It keeps me accountable in my recovery. I get to share my testimony all the time, what God can do, restore your life, and we get gentlemen that are homeless off the street, that have come from jail. Some that are, we have a Tomorrow's Hope program, which is a rehab program that's under Safe House Ministries. Then we have Tomorrow's Hope, which is the rehab program. And then we have Grace House, the men's transitional home, and then Trinity House, the women's transitional home. So that's all under Safe House Ministries. And then we all kind of just work together for the...
Is the Tomorrow's Hope, is that a day program?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
And some people are sentenced there, so they have to be, stay at Grace House for X amount of time. But the whole goal is to help them stay clean and sober, and then transition into the community. We get them housing, and we help them save money and all this wonderful stuff. So
recovery.
Yeah, recovery. Yeah.
So what's the difference between the folks who take their classes at Midtown versus the folks who take their classes at Safe House?
At Tomorrow's Hope. They're pretty similar. It's
so it's just a different recovery program?
It's a different recovery program.
Okay.
We've had some that have moved on to Midtown, and but they're doing well. It's so it's just a different
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
Is it a progression, like you start at Tomorrow's Hope and then go to Midtown, or
no? Tomorrow's Hope, you go all the way through, and I think Midtown is an all the way through program on their own.
Okay.
Tomorrow's Hope. There's different phases. They get to phase up for the first 30 to 60 days, depending on the client. They can't work. You're just coming in and they have to kind of, reshape you. And so they do that. There's different phases. And then it's usually, I think, around a 9-month program. And then they have aftercare where you'll cut down. I think it's like 1 day a week or something. You come for classes, just kind of like a relapse prevention. Yeah. But they're required to go to 3 meetings a week, which has been a really big blessing too. Chap has let Jeff and I take the van, start driving the van, and we'll go pick up. Even tonight, we go pick up the men and women from Trinity and Grace House, and we all take them together. We've started 3 different NA meetings at the Safe House. Yeah. So Chap has just been cool. Fantastic with the recovery, because it was so needed with COVID. Nobody's been meeting, and there's been so many relapses, and it's been really bad. So Safe House has been a wonderful place for some recovery.
Yeah, the van's a cool story. I've been praying for a while about what we needed to do. For the last several years, really since we've been here at Eastern Heights, we've had guys from the Grace House who'd come to church, through John's relationship, through connections or whatever it may be, or just, we've always had folks in recovery at the Fort. And so, anyway, so some of them would come and they'd get a ride with John, and he'd say, well, I can't always bring everybody that wants to come in his Accord. And and some of them would ride their bike over. And, so I just love, love that they're having those guys as part of the church family. And I was just praying, maybe we should get a van. If we gave John a van, he'd fill up the church 10 times or whatever. But I was telling him, I told him one day, I was praying about it. He said, well, they got a van. I'll just ask the chaplain if he'll let us use it. And so it's been really cool the last, it's really about 3 months now, I guess, since that happened. And I love having those guys. I was standing there Sunday morning and realizing, there's a real relationship here. It's I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. That they're not projects. They're part of our family. You know what I mean? Part of our church family.
Absolutely.
And I'm thankful for that. I really am.
I am too.
I've been praying how we could have a greater ministry to those guys who want something more for their life and see that God wants that for them too.
Well, this is what you don't get to see on the backside of that is to overhear. They don't even know that we hear them, but about church, talking about what this church has done. And I have a gentleman, a client that is actually not from here. He's at Grace House, and his girlfriend, he was having a hard time at Grace House, and God just reached out to me and was like, that's one of the first people I asked to come to church. Mm-hmm. So I just went over and I was like, I have this fantastic church. I really think you would love it. I'd love for you to go with us. So Jeff and I took him in our car, and he's been every single Sunday since. He's got his girlfriend, again, he's not from here. His girlfriend watches every Sunday. She's actually moving here now, and they want this to be their church home.
I think I saw, maybe Christy showed me a message that she had posted or something, or maybe she sent in to our email a prayer request or something.
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
It's pretty amazing. But that's happening, and I noticed that there's more and more guys, and it's a special thing because, like you said, it is a relationship that like a working relationship I have with them. But it's pretty important for them to see me also involved in working every day in my recovery. They see me in the meetings and working that, and then even after my clean time, and that because it is a continual something you'll have to work out the rest of your life. And
absolutely.
Then to being able to worship together is amazing. That's actually strengthened our relationship. And they're like, Miss Ginger, we saw you dancing and singing at church. You were really feeling it. So I love it.
I've known folks in the past that in recovery ends up kind of being their church.
Right.
It ends up being their religion, and 12-step, allows for that.
Right.
It's God of your understanding.
Right.
But how valuable is the church piece for you along with 12-step? I mean, do you see them as absolutely needed together, or and I guess the thing for me is just trying to understand better as a pastor. I want to be able to help folks to connect the two. It's not one or the other.
Well, we always say the people that have a little time, especially in the NA program, they say God of your understanding, but we all know it leads to God. But we don't want to turn away anybody that's not there yet. So that's why you said a lot of times it can be just the recovery can be like church for them at that time. But it's such a spiritual program. It absolutely leads, to God. So I think they're important. We're supposed to say God of understanding. I slip all the time when I'm sharing in meetings. I'm like, God, let's just keep it, let's just be real. See what we're talking about here, but I think they are important together, because it is a spiritual program. And when you work the steps and peel back all the onion layers of why you do what you do and who you are, and that is all just spiritual, really.
Yeah, it's you can take out the drugs and alcohol part. You just call it 12 steps of discipleship. I mean, it really is. I mean, the process is very similar to what you try and help somebody through as they begin to follow Jesus and begin to be restored into His image. So
that's right.
So with working as a case manager, what kind of stuff are you helping these guys do? I mean,
Well, like I said, because it's something different every day. It depends on the intakes that we get. Some come in, they've come from jail or they've just come under a bridge. It just depends. But our main goals, first and foremost, is to get them in the first 30 days. We try to get all 3 of their IDs, because you just can't do anything without get jobs or anything. A lot of them don't have any IDs. So
Social Security, birth certificate, driver's license, or state ID?
Right, or state ID. Homeless Resource Network is a huge help with that. They will pay for a one-time whether you can get their birth certificate, and twice a month, Social Security will be at Homeless Resource Network, and you can get the Social Security taken care of right then and there. Connections, is a huge. They've been a huge help with us. They've I think they've gotten really busy over there, because we send a lot of our guys to try to help with the ID situation.
I think a lot of people don't understand how difficult. And can be, I think, kind of unsympathetic to it, and I know I can be that way sometimes too. You're like, well, this guy made bad choices over the course of years, and now look, he's still, he's gonna, reoffend or whatever. But when you start to see the challenges that these men and women face when they've broken down all their support system over the years. I mean, if they had it to begin with, right, and they've broken all those relationships, been in jail for a time, come out or been homeless for a time, whatever, on the streets, and you don't have those forms of ID, right, and then trying to get those things, and the frustration, especially during COVID, of trying to work with Social Security and all that stuff, how hard some of that is, and how valuable you guys are, helping people do that, but it becomes very difficult for them to make those steps of recovery, and just stresses how important ministries like Safe House are.
Right, it is. And just like you said, just little things like you were saying, I just need to go get an ID. It's not that easy when you have it's just not. And like you said, a lot of them, my gratitude is just through the roof every day. Just the simplest of things that people take for granted. It just the most basic stuff. I had loving parents that were, when I was doing, hey, you're doing a great job, where I love you. And a lot of these gentlemen will, we do weekly certificates. It's something that case managers and our office managers kind of came up with on our own, to just somebody that's really gone above and beyond. And we like to try, we do somebody different, because we have a Sunday meeting at Grace House every Sunday night at 7:00. And where all the gentlemen are there, and then just the staff. And so we always pick out somebody. And I've had 2 or 3 of the gentlemen start crying just to be recognized. They've never gotten anything like that. And they talk about, for Christmas, we went around the room and asked what each one was grateful for. And almost all of them was, said that it was just somebody believing in them. Yeah. And, there was one guy that walked, puffed his chest up, and he was like, Mr. Ed and Chuck said they trust me, and just the simplest little things like that, I love being able to pass that forward, because I know how important that is, just those little attaboys, and I see, the progress you're making, and we talk about God a lot. There's one guy right now that's having a hard time, and it's a wonderful time to minister. There's always different times to, like you said, share the gospel. And he just keeps asking, my history, what my charges were. Why do you love me? He just can't, he'll ask, he just goes around asking the staff. And, we just go back to Jesus, that's what, so I love this job so much. Yeah. It's such a blessing. It doesn't feel like a job, really.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
The check is a bonus, though. Yeah.
Yeah, that those little things that I would take for granted, it's an aggravation for me when I go to renew my driver's license or whatever. That I got to have 2 pieces of mail with my name
Right.
on it. Like, well, it's no big deal. I'll dig around for it. Or I didn't throw it away this week, but I mean, for somebody who's on the streets, where are you coming up with this stuff?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's a big deal what you guys are doing,
Right.
and I'm loving seeing these guys. Bring their families to church, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
Very cool.
They're, people who that they have hurt pretty deeply in the
Right.
past, and see them how excited. I mean, I won't take you back and make it too emotional, but imagining how happy your parents are.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, and
Yeah.
what a huge thing that is for
Yeah.
them. And so, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to watch.
It
is. I know that there's the other side of it that that a lot of people don't make it through this time.
That's right.
And you get to experience a lot of that hurt. How are you doing with that? Because you're relatively new in it,
Right,
so-
relatively new,
yeah.
and that is really hard. That's the one thing about this job that I'm having to learn boundaries for myself, because it's so hard not to get so invested. And when you've been through what I've been through and then come out on the other side, you have so much hope, and it's like you just want to take everybody. Like, no, it's possible. You know what I mean? To come this way, and so when you invest and you have all that hope for somebody, and you've shared everything and you've done everything you can to help, and then to see them, fall back or whatever, it's hard not to, like, not just, I don't mean take it personally, but like really, really be able to just let that go. Yeah. Like, you can't I never just leave my job at, I don't just clock out and go home. It's a constant, prayer. There's 4 gentlemen now that were in 65 and older, in a bando house, living on the street. I mean, that's like my dad's age, 73, with a drug problem. Laying, one gentleman had prostate cancer, had like a bag on him, and he's literally 73, laying in a bando house. And it just, so I really invested, in him, and let's see what we can do. And he ended up going back out, and there's not a day that goes by. I mean, every single night, every single morning, I pray for him. And so that's been hard, because you can't just let that stuff go, but that's where prayer comes in. And I just have to just keep asking God to watch over them, and, planting a seed that goes a long way. So you never know, that may come back around. That's my prayer. So.
Oh yeah. I'll remember to pray for you on that. It's hard. It can be very heartbreaking.
Yeah. Very.
And you want to be tougher.
Right.
I want to be tougher sometimes. But,
No. Yeah.
But
Total softy. It's bad.
well, it's just it's hard, because you begin to love somebody, and even if you don't know them that much, you love the thought of somebody doing better. Somebody getting out of pain, out of hurt. Mending their relationships and their family, and to watch that, watch them have it in sight, and then give it up again, or to go back to, and it doesn't have to be drugs. It could be whatever, the old habits or the old way of life. Or we see that in church all the time. So
it's like the people that I consider it like, I mean, we're all, children of God, but I always think of it like Jesus's people. That's the ones he went to, the prostitutes, the lepers, all the like you said, the outside. It's harder to love the people on the outside, but it's all of us. He loves us all like that. And these people are so stepped over and forgotten. And like you said, there's this attitude with so many people. It's their own fault. They made bad choices. Well, I made bad choices, because I've come on the other side, and I may look like this. I'm no different than this gentleman that was sleeping under the bridge, and no different. Yeah. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So, right. Yep.
I'm thankful God got a hold of me earlier in life.
Right.
I was on a pretty bad path myself. But, Ginger, thanks for coming in.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
What did I forget to ask, Ginger? You talk so much the whole time.
I know, Kayla.
I'm
sorry. I'm one of those people that don't know a ton. I mean, I have a couple of loved ones that have experience with recovery and stuff like that, and I've seen how it's transformed their life, of course, but I don't have a ton of insight on, people's testimonies and, like, just the system of
Right.
recovery. So I enjoy, like even when Stephen was here, I was just,
Yeah. Boy,
glued
that's
in, It's amazing. It truly is amazing.
truly amazing.
Yeah.
Jeff and Stephen go way back. They've known each other for a long time. So that's
All you guys know each other.
yeah, we
Yeah.
do. Oh, we do. I know, right?
You're all
Right.
linked up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also another thing is like when I haven't been in Columbus all my life, but I've been
Right.
here a pretty long time. And you think that you're so well acquainted with the different communities, of the
Right.
city. But that's, something that just completely.
That's a blessing. The underbelly of You
Well,
didn't miss a thing.
you gotta know where the drugs are.
That's right.
So
That's right.
you gotta know the other addicts.
That's
and
it.
The
That's
people
it.
who are selling and So, but it's always funny to meet that they all know each other.
There's
They
no
all-
strangers.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
No strangers.
So,
Well, that's what's hard too. You have to work in your recovery because I know right now I had friends that I used with that even now, if I were to try to go back, they'd be like, "You're doing so good. Don't don't come back around here." But then I also know right where to go to if I wanted to
Yeah.
get it. So that's something. That's why you have to just live your recovery and work at it every single day.
That's the thing I think I admire the most about people who are in recovery is the work. Like
Yeah.
you're so committed to the work every single day. You wake up and it's a brave thing to do.
Right.
To continuously. I'm the type of person. I'm like, I'll work on myself a little bit. I'm like, okay, whew.
Yeah, no, right.
That was good. All right. We're good now. We're in
Right.
the clear. And
Yeah.
then, I find myself in a cycle again. But
Right.
you guys are so just committed to your growth,
Right.
committed to the health of, keep going because you know that you're worth that now,
Right. Well, recovery is the new addiction, as they're saying, and that feeling of changing and being better, like you said. I always say I'm 45 in my life. I feel like I just got born. Because I feel better than I've ever had. The issues I had always growing up with the self-esteem, all that is better, because I've done a lot of inside work. I mean, I work at it. And every evening, like with the 12-step program, they'll teach you with the steps, like taking your own inventory. While I go to God in prayer at night, I'm also kind of going through my day, like, wow, it's a little harsh. I might not should have done that, or I could have fixed that right. And then to go to the person or whatever the situation is the next day and be like, I was kind of out of line there or whatever. I've never been so self-aware in a good way, not because as an addict, you're so selfish, it's all about me. But now it's just more of self-awareness. So it's
Reflective, yeah.
huge growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I think that like the honesty
Yeah.
of that. I have a good friend I think that's the biggest value of hers that she's taken from recovery is the honesty.
Yes.
She is so committed to honesty.
Yes.
And even in the biggest ways and the smallest
That's
of
right.
ways. She could
And
be
it feels
like,
great
Yeah.
because
And
you're
it's-
such liars.
What do you what,
We were. That's what you do,
Would you say that what is a value from recovery that you that is your pillar? Because for
Right.
her, honesty is her pillar.
I think that's probably it. It would be mine too. I think for most addicts that would be it because exhausting to tell all those lies. I mean, just constantly. And like I said, I had problems with that as a small child. I've just always been a liar, and now I don't. I mean, if I even say like a little white lie, I'm like, ugh, it's like gut wrenching, and I'm like, I don't know why I said that. I was really just still sitting on the couch. I haven't even gotten in the shower yet, or whatever. It may be something so simple, but it just doesn't sit well now. Things that that you would just do before that were just habit, like you said, just lying about stuff that you didn't even need to lie about, like insanity, the stuff that would come out of your mouth. Like, who's going to believe these stories,
And you don't even need it.
You don't even need it. You don't even need it. So and that's the big pillar for mine, too. I think it's just being totally honest. It feels good, like you said, in the big things and the small things. That's hard sometimes, and that's part of growth, too, in relationships, because I'm not a friend I'm going to be a real friend. If you ask, I'm going to tell you, and in recovery, that's an amazing group of network of people because nowhere in my life before finding the rooms, someone call me on my mess. Mm-hmm. And then you're still you need to take a look at this. Wait, that's crazy. That's a terrible decision or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And, you may get upset later, but you're like, oh, they were right. I really need to take a look at that. So it's just, it's just amazing. I love it.
I know not to ask her anything that I don't want to know.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Right. Because
I'm
we're
how do you
going
do
to tell
my
you.
makeup?
I know,
She'd be
yeah.
like,
Yeah. Want me to lie to you? No.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's very good. So, thank you.
Yeah,
It's
thank
good
you.
talk.
Thank you.
And I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of folks. And
I
and
hope
for
so.
me, as pastor, I just love our folks getting to know each other more.
Right.
And so that's what the big part of why we do these things is just
Right.
so we can get to know each other more, so people can hear our voices more. And so I want them to understand that for a lot of our folks that don't have any experience with addiction or recovery themselves, we got our own stuff that we
That's
deal
right.
with, but being able to understand their brothers and sisters more,
Right.
who've been through some things, and it only helps us to love each other more. And that's, in the end, that's what we're called to do. Love
Yes.
God, love one
Amen.
another, and share His love. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And I'm so grateful for what God is doing in your life.
Me too.
And it's fun to watch.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
All right. Cool.
Love you guys.
All right. Love y'all. Bye now.